Hey folks, today's episode is sponsored by Giuseppe Makes a Movie, the new Stranger Than Fiction documentary by director Adam Rifkin, available now on iTunes, Amazon, Vudu, and Video on Demand. Giuseppe Andrews is a DIY filmmaker and musician who was a one-time teen actor in movies like Independence Day and Detroit Rock City. Now he makes dozens of experimental comedies starring the real-life alcoholics, drug addicts, topless waitresses, and senior citizens from his Ventura, California trailer park. Bobcat Goldthwait calls Giuseppe American movie meets Charles Bukowski in a trailer park. Damn, I'm in. Get it now on VOD and on Blu-ray and limited edition VHS in May. We're also sponsored today by Squarespace, the easiest way to create a beautiful website, blog, or online store for you and your ideas. Squarespace features an elegant interface, beautiful templates, and incredible 24/7 customer support. Try Squarespace at squarespace.com and enter the offer code WTF at checkout to get 10% off. Squarespace. Build it beautiful. All right, people. Let's do the show.
Lock the gate!
All right, let's do this. How are you, what the fuckers, what the fuck buddies, what the fucking ears, what the fuck sticks, what the fuckadelics? How are you? This is Marc Maron. This is WTF. This is my show. I welcome you. Right out of the gate, my guest today, Conor Oberst. Some of you know him as Bright Eyes. Some of you know him from Monsters of Folk or from the Desaparecidos, who are reuniting to release their first album 13 years later this year. Desaparecidos. Yeah? How's that for a name? But today he's Conor Oberst on my show. His recent solo album is Upside Down Mountain. We'll talk to him in a minute. So I know most of you know about my tour, but I feel like I should run it by you. I should run it by you again if you don't. I'm touring. I'm doing a massive tour starting at the end of March, really officially, March 20 and 21 at the Rochester, New York, the Comedy Club. I'm doing 4 shows to get in gear, to get my brain in the right place. Thursday, April 9th, Warner Theater, Washington, D.C. Friday, April 10th, the Trocadero, Philadelphia. Saturday, April 11th, the Wilbur in Boston. April 16th, the Barrymore Theater, Madison, Wisconsin. April 17th, Carnegie of Homestead Music Hall, Pittsburgh. April 18th, Royal Oak Music Theater, Royal Oak, Michigan. April 19th, Bluma Appel, Toronto, Ontario. April 25th, Fitzgerald in Houston, Texas. Fitzgerald's. April 26th, Southside Music Hall, Dallas, Texas. May 8th, the Neptune in Seattle. May 9th, the Vogue in Vancouver. May 10th, Davies Symphony Hall, San Francisco, California. May 14th, the Orange Peel in Asheville, North Carolina. May 15th, Charleston Music Hall, Charleston, South Carolina. May 16th, Variety Playhouse, Atlanta, Georgia. And May 17th, Joy Theater in New Orleans. Tickets are selling fast, so I better pull it together. But I've been up against the wall before. This is how I work. Push myself up against the wall, and then I line about 9 of me's facing me with guns. I have a blindfold on, and I say to the 9 me's, Can wait, please, can you just give me a few minutes? I think I have something to say that will save my life. I think I have something to say that will prove that I'm innocent of being over. And I make my case. And then, like, they let me off. They put their guns down. They say, well, you still got to go before the judge. And that motherfucker, just another me, just sitting up there on high like he knows what's going on, he's a little difficult because he passes judgment in a way that's not definitive. It's more sort of like, you're not guilty, but you should feel guilty. Yeah, all right, great. God damn it, man. Everything's all right. All right? I cooked a real chicken. Don't recommend it. A real chicken. Like a real one. Not like one that was in a cage, not a free-range chicken, but like a chicken that was just out in the wild chicken. And you know what? I think if more people ate the real thing, like just the chicken that's out in the world, there'd be less people would eat chicken. More people would be vegetarians because it's stringy, it's weird, it's muscly, it's a little bit gamey, and that's like the good stuff. And I was like, can I have my sad, fat caged chicken or mildly free-range chicken that's been fed something to make its thighs and breasts too big? But then I felt bad about that, putting that chicken through that. But I'll tell you, the out in the wild real chicken that had a life, a little rough to eat. Computers are designed to make running a business easier. It does for me. The entire show wouldn't exist without computers, but computers should make your mailing and shipping just as easy. Use Stamps.com to get 24-hour access to the post office right from your computer. No waiting in line, no hassles. Stamps.com makes mailing and shipping easy. Just use the computer and printer you already have to get official U.S. postage for any letter, any package. Print the postage directly onto envelopes, labels, even plain paper, then hand it to your mail carrier. There's no guesswork. Stamps.com will send you a digital scale that automatically calculates the exact postage you need for any class of mail. You'll never have to go to the post office again. And it's only $15.99 a month. No long-term, multi-year commitments like those postage meters require, and you'll get postage discounts with Stamps.com. Use my promo code WTF for this special offer. Start a no-risk trial, plus get a $110 bonus offer that includes a digital scale and up to $55 of free postage. Don't wait! Go to Stamps.com, and before you do anything else, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage and type in WTF. That's Stamps.com. Enter WTF. A new cat has arrived somewhere. I don't know where he came from. There's a couple of new cats around. Deaf black cat, I think, is gone. And I don't know what to do about that. I'm processing. I'm a little sad, but I think he's done. I haven't seen him around the neighborhood. A new black cat has shown up. This cat is a motherfucker. Can I say that? Sorry, kids. This cat... It's like the equivalent of a cat pit bull in its intensity. It's got this huge ass head, and it's got this muscular body, and it's got these huge balls, which means I don't know and it's got a massive scar on the back of its head. This thing it's just a tough fucking looking cat. He's pretty friendly. I think he's somewhat peopled, but I don't know what to do about those balls. I mean, I guess he's not coming around every day. I guess I got to get that taken care of because, I'm afraid it's going to fuck me. That's how intense this cat is. He's coming over and he's eating, and he's just stalking around looking for something to fuck. And that's trouble. Most of the cats around here are fixed. There's another little dude around that looks exactly like an older dude I have. I don't know where that guy came from. And I don't know how they make rounds. I wish I knew how cats lived, but this black cat, man, it is a badass looking cat, and I feel bad because there's part of me knows I got those balls have got to come off, and I don't know if I'm the guy to do it. I don't know what kind of relationship he has elsewhere. Maybe there's a dude I picture, maybe a Latino dude down the street that loves this cat, that loves its big balls, and that it's a badass cat, and then I'm gonna trap it, get his balls cut off, and he's gonna go back to his buddy, and the guy's gonna be like, "Where are your balls, yo?" And then and then he'll be ostracized for not being as macho as he once was, and then maybe his head will get smaller, and then he'll just be hanging around here, wondering what he should do with his life. Like me. Except I'm busy. Very busy. I have a full life, but yet there's part of me that's sort of like, what am I going to do with my life? What is that about? God damn, man. It's fucking crazy. Folks, if I had to build a website from scratch, I would have no idea where to start. I don't know anything about coding or web design. I wouldn't be able to make it look good or work well. So there are only two options for people like me. Either we hire someone to take care of it, which can be expensive, or use Squarespace, which makes it easy to build beautiful websites without breaking a sweat. Squarespace gives you simple, powerful, and beautiful website templates to work with. Not only that, but those templates are part of Squarespace responsive design, which means your websites look great on any device, phone, tablet, laptop, desktop, whatever. Every website you build also comes with a free online store if you need it. If you just need something simple, their new cover page feature lets you set up a beautiful one-page site in minutes. You're not going to beat the ease and simplicity of Squarespace, people, for just $8 a month, plus 24/7 online support, and you can even get a free domain if you buy Squarespace for the year. Start a trial with no credit card required and start building your website today. When you decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure to use the offer code WTF to get 10% off your first purchase and to show your support for WTF. Squarespace. Build it beautiful. All right, so let's why don't we talk to Conor Oberst now, and perhaps he'll play some music for us as well. I believe he will. Come on, man. When you take the stage with big shots, you don't get any moment of insecurity?
Oh, I mean, of course, yeah. It's never easy to be like just trying to.
No problem.
Yeah.
I'm just up here with Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just up here with John Prine. Not an issue. I can handle it.
Exactly.
I saw you over there at the Greek.
You were at the show?
I went to the show.
Cool.
Well, here's the thing is like, I've known about you for a long time. And then like when we had the opportunity to talk, I'm like, well, now I really got to find out about him.
Sure.
So I had to go, I got to go back to when you were a kid. So you're fortunate in that you're talking to a guy that is very up to speed on songs. They're very fresh in my head. Some of them for the first time.
Okay, cool.
Like the Bright Eyes records, I listened to Fevers and Mirrors, Lifted, and Casadega primarily.
Okay.
And the last two solo albums. Is that good? Is that a solid foundation?
Sure. That's a great starting point.
I asked these two little girls who I think that at the time you first started doing the Bright Eyes records must have been the primary support of what you were doing.
Yep.
Because these girls were like, they must have been like 25, and they one of them had recognized me or something. And I was like, so are you big fans? They're like, oh yeah, I mean since middle school. And I'm like, okay, what should I listen to? They're like, oh, Theft and Fevers and Mirrors. Those are the ones.
Nice.
Those must have been the ones that planted the seed, man.
Yeah, I would say Fevers was definitely like the first, I don't know, breakthrough, the one that people heard first, I would say.
And wait, how old were you?
I would have been 19.
So when did you start playing? I mean, because you got some notoriety before that album, though.
Yeah, I mean, my very first, I guess, quote unquote records, which was really a cassette tape. Yeah. I was like 13 years old, and
right.
And me and my friends had like this little kind of make believe label, and we made our cassettes and sold them at the local, the cool music store in town.
And how did that become like the moment? Who decided this guy's got something?
Well, I got to give credit to a good friend of mine, this guy Ted Stevens, who's been in a lot of amazing bands. He had a band called Lullaby for the working class, like in the 90s. That was rad. And then he still plays in Cursive, blah blah blah. But he was the first one. I mean, he's probably 4 or 5 years older than me. When I was like 13, and he heard me play a couple songs, and then he offered to bring his little Tascam 4-track to my parents' house.
Yeah, man.
And recorded my first, record or whatever. So
at your parents' house.
Yep.
Where, in the basement? In the bedroom?
In the attic.
In the attic.
Yeah.
In Nebraska.
In Nebraska.
What part of Nebraska?
Omaha.
I have no real point of reference for Omaha, Nebraska.
I mean, it's an average, Midwestern kind of town.
It's pretty, though. It's kind of lush in Nebraska, isn't it?
So Omaha is on the far eastern side, so it's on the Missouri River. So our downtown butts up against this town called Council Bluffs in Iowa. Mm-hmm. And so it's sort of, they join there. And it is pretty. It's like the Missouri River Valley, so there's some hills and stuff. The rest of Nebraska, as you go west towards Denver, of course, becomes, truly a desert wasteland zone.
Yeah, I think I drove through part of Nebraska once. I got some friends. There was a music scene up there in Omaha, I think, or Lincoln, right?
Yeah. And they're close together. Like Lincoln's the college town, and Omaha's like the one real city, and they're like, an hour apart.
Yeah, I knew a couple of guys that come through there. Like Buck Naked was a guy that did you ever hear of them? They were sort of like a rockabilly outfit, and they ended up in the Bay Area. Or something like that. I don't think he's around anymore.
That's like calling your band Free Beer or something,
Yeah.
Get people out the shows.
It was Buck Naked and the Somebodies. I don't remember what it was. That isn't actually the name. So you started playing guitar when you were what?
Like 10 maybe.
And did your parents give you the guitar?
Yeah, my dad is a musician. He, not professionally, but he had a cover band that would do all the sort of weddings and dances and stuff. So he was the multi-instrumentalist. So he did some keys, and he did some horn and some guitar and like backup singing. And
he did everything.
Yeah, and they had, they just played like it was like the 80s, so they played whatever Maneater or whatever was popular at the time, and he would learn the parts, and that was kind of supplemental income for.
What was his regular thing?
Mutual of Omaha. He was just kind of middle
a dude in the office.
Yeah, he worked there for like, I don't know, 30 years or something. So
Did a lot of people? I guess a lot of people work there.
that's the big one. I mean, there's that. There's like Union Pacific is the other. The railroad is another big one
in Omaha.
And then like ConAgra, which is like, you know, a huge Monsanto shitty like food thing. So
sure, agribusiness.
Exactly. A lot of it.
Sure. Just grow that shit. As fast as possible.
Yeah.
And without bugs, no matter what the cost.
Exactly. And then of course we got Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
You know, the other.
Yeah.
Kind of big.
Well, he's trying to be a good guy now. He's throwing some money back.
He is. He is.
Yeah. Sometimes they get old, they get soft. They got a lot of money they don't know what to do with.
Totally.
Maybe it's time to help out.
Yeah. His daughter, Susie Buffett, is a pretty amazing person. She's like friends with my mom and does all kinds of like great things for people.
And what'd your mom do when you were growing up?
She worked for the Omaha Public Schools. She was a teacher and then eventually principal.
So it was good. So you had you had a father that at least had a dream at some point and somehow held on to it, and there was enough instruments around the house.
Totally. I mean, no, they were so supportive and awesome. I mean, I had my first band when I was like 14 or something, and we even signed to like a label in New York, and like, I mean, they were crazy enough to.
As Bright Eyes?
No, this was called Commander Venus. This was an even earlier band.
Somebody signed you at 14?
Yeah.
They're like, we got these kids in Nebraska.
Yeah, it was a cool label actually. This label, they're no longer a label. They're called Grass Records, and they did a bunch of cool stuff in the kind of early mid 90s, like the Wrens and bunch of like Sunbrain and a bunch of bands. So
what was that first guitar? What was it? Nylon?
I actually had the Ovation with the
curved back.
The curved back because my dad had a big beautiful old Dreadnought Martin that I could, when I was first starting to play, I would try to play it, but my arm like couldn't get over the top. So I'd be like, And so once they realized like, okay, I was like taking it serious enough, and it was like, whatever, Christmas, whatever, and they got me this, the littlest, thinnest one that I could kind of get my arm around. So.
And what wasn't the inspiration initially? Because I know you get, you get comparisons hung on you that can't be helpful in any way.
Yeah.
The last thing anybody wants to be is compared to Bob Dylan in some ways. I imagine it's flattering, but after a certain point, you're going to be like, oh boy.
Yeah, that was a tough one. I mean, I think that in like music journalist shorthand, that's kind of like, code for, they have a lot of words in their sons.
And they write a lot of them.
Yeah, and they're or it's a weird voice. It's hard to get used to.
Prolific.
Yeah. And so, but yeah, I mean, there's worse things to be called, I suppose. But it is a bit, because when it's funny when people read something like that about you, like in a magazine, they take this step to think that you're saying it about yourself.
Yeah, well,
and it's like, no, I never said that about myself.
Right.
Somebody wrote that, and then 1,000 other people asked me about it.
Well, it's tricky because, like, I was trying to figure out, what is it about what I thought about you that didn't necessarily like why didn't I lock in earlier? It's a tricky thing when you're an earnest cat, because you're a pretty earnest dude. You're not a fucking goofball.
Sure.
And that comes across.
I am a goofball, but maybe not in the music. Yeah.
But are you aware of that?
I mean, sure. I actually think that there's more humor in some of my music than people realize.
And they can hear?
But
because you're too intense?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, not so much on the early records, but I mean, in later records, I would say, yeah.
Yeah. But you're aware of that.
Sure.
Yeah, because, when you're young and you're prolific and, it means something to you, that's just a moving target for bullies and people that aren't making it, and critics. And
sure. And our stuff was, I think, there was a slight reaction to when I first started going to shows at like the little punk club or whatever in town, and there was that whole kind of 90s wave of like super slacker.
Yeah.
Like everything, it's kind of getting back to that, but everything had to be ironic and everything had to be kind of like, I don't really.
No effort.
Yeah, I don't really play guitar. I don't really do this. Like, I just do this because while I'm serving coffee or whatever.
Right.
And to me, I always felt like once I decided I want to do this for my life and I was really going to do it.
When was that?
I mean,
14?
Maybe not quite. I mean, I always wanted to do it from when I started. I always assumed eventually I would have to do something else because it might not work out financially or whatever. But I guess I always felt like if you're going to do it, like there's nothing wrong with taking it seriously and like trying your best. And
sure. So if you're 14, what was the process of writing for you then, and what were you trying to do? I mean, what were you listening to that made you go, holy shit? There's power in that.
Yeah, it was actually a local thing, because there was this one great record store called the Antiquarium, which, well, sadly it no longer exists, but that was where we would all go. And
who's we?
Like my brothers and our friends.
How many brothers you got?
2 older brothers.
Oh, so you had the gift of the older brother.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's helpful when you want to learn about music.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then kind of their groups of friends would let me tag along.
And the
stuff.
dude at the store, I bet.
Yeah. So there was a certain novelty to the fact that I wrote songs.
Right.
And I came in there and I was really little or whatever. So they let me kind of bum around. And he still makes amazing records. I always try to talk about him because he's sort of a hidden treasure. But his name is Simon Joyner, and he's amazing. I mean, he's probably made like 20.
He worked at the record store?
No, he was a songwriter in town.
Okay.
And big early influence on me. Still to this day, I always wait. He puts out a record probably once a year. He's
still local?
Yep. And
have you taken him out with you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
several times. And he's got like a cult following kind of all over the world. Very famously, once John Peel, the famous DJ, played like one of his albums start to finish, which I guess he'd only done a couple times in like the history of his show or whatever. But anyway, he was a local guy that really meant a lot to me, and I sort of tried to model myself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
what was it about him though? What was the there's something about those local guys where you're like, there's the excitement of like, no one knows about this guy and he's like the best.
I mean, to us it was kind of the opposite. It was like, he's the biggest.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, in my,
Oh, so now it's changed. As you get older, you're like, wow, no.
Right.
Yeah,
I know. And truly, he got me to probably those other songwriters like Townes Van Zandt, like Dylan, like, Prine, like whatever, just all those kind of true sort of.
What were his themes? What was his style? What would you compare it to?
I would say it's definitely folk based.
Yeah.
His early records were just guitar and voice, and then since then he's made a lot of records with bands. And
folk is tricky, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's
because would you consider yourself a folk musician from the start? Because those Bright Eyes records aren't really folk records.
I mean, I actually would, in the sense of like, when I think of my songs, the song itself is hopefully sturdy enough to exist apart from whatever arrangement or whatever production you put onto it.
That's right.
And so you want, for me, it's like the song is obviously the vocal melody, the chord progression, and the lyrics. And I think if a song is, worth its salt, you should be able to play it just on a guitar or on a piano, and it should still make sense. You
can overproduce it and put some drums on there.
And we've done a lot of that, But yeah, I always think of it as kind of like, once the song exists, it's like standing like naked in front of some kind of giant walk-in closet, and there's like a million outfits you could dress it up in.
Well, I think that's true. I think that's what's interesting about, even watching you the other night, that, the choice for whatever this tour was, it struck me, once it really got going, and on some of the faster tunes that, it's a country band. Really?
Yeah, I mean, we had the pedal steel and everything going, yeah.
I mean, you had that whole thing. And there was that kind of romping 1-4-5 thing.
Sure.
That is sort of like, that's like honky tonk music.
Yeah.
So the choice was, but then I realized, like, as a singer-songwriter, it's an interesting place to be, because that is that's foremost what you do. And then you're sort of like, well, what are we gonna do with it?
Yeah.
And it's really up to you. And it seems like you've chosen a lot of different things.
Yeah,
it's hard to pigeonhole you.
I mean, yeah, I think that for me, a big part of keeping the excitement and making records is, collaborating with different people and trying, just experimenting within, I think it has to make sense. Like, sometimes, like, just experimenting to make something weird isn't that interesting to me. But if you can experiment and make it cool and different, but still keep the essence of the song, and like. Well,
it was sort of like, I like that about the Bright Eyes records, is that, there are these interludes of conversation or phone messages or things. Yeah. But I always liked it. I don't know if it was calculated, but I was listening to it the day before yesterday, one of the early records, where I'm like, there's always a chick around. There's always a chick around, like either like talking or laughing, but it just seems like there's at least one or two girls hanging around the band.
Well, we've had a lot of girls in the band over the years.
Yeah,
so,
there's vocals on some of those.
Yeah. So yeah, we've been blessed to know a lot of pretty badass female musicians.
So when did the struggle begin with whatever the hell it is that you were trying to solve with your words? Because do you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still happening.
Because like I listened to the words, and I'm not a big lyrics guy. It's weird. I don't know why. I'm a melody guy, and I'm
really that would surprise me just because
I'm a wordy guy.
Yeah.
I'm a thinky guy.
Yeah.
Well, but the primary problem is if I can't understand them pretty easily, and I got to go back over and over again. Like I've been recently trying to write some stuff. Yeah, I've written poetry and I've written a book and I've done that.
Yeah.
But songwriting is a whole other animal, and there's some part of my brain after 25 years as a comic and and doing this, I'm sort of like, no, I want to write some songs. So I was listening to what songcraft really is. But it has to be. They have to be up front for me to lock in.
Gotcha.
Like I got to be able to hear it. If it's a problem, like I never understood why so many records are mixed. So they're like, why can't you understand the vocals?
Well, it's most of the time that's because I think people are insecure about their lyrics. So that's kind of another sort of thing in like whatever modern bloggy fucking music that's annoying to me sometimes, where it's just like there's so much of that reverb and it's drenched on the voice, right? And I get it, like the shoegaze, whatever, but it's like, to me, it's like the sign of kind of a self-conscious singer that doesn't want to have anyone have a chance to critique what they're saying or their idea. I mean, I've always been attracted to songs that you can maybe walk away with and still latch onto the melody, but you can also walk away with like ideas. Like,
sure, it's provocative.
A Leonard Cohen song or Paul Simon song or something. You walk away and you're like, whoa, like you're just like thinking now about things.
There's room in between. There's Leonard more than Paul. It's sparse, so it's going to provoke whatever it's going to provoke. Yeah, but you do a lot of very good turn of phrases, and and it seems like from early on that your sense of emotion and relationship and spiritual struggle was fairly strong early on. Is that something you gleaned from listening to other people, or was that like? Here's what I'm getting at: is that when I write a poem or you work a piece of music, something that has structure like that, it becomes almost like an equation, an emotional equation. So, like, I guess my question is, did you reveal yourself to yourself as you wrote, or were you like, I feel this way and I'm gonna,
I think it was probably more the revealing as I went along, or not. No, I mean, clearly not knowing what I was doing.
So the words were a surprise. You're like, holy shit.
Yeah, and they spilled out in very sloppy ways for a long time. And I think just through trial and error of having written, hundreds of songs at this point, I have decided things that I like, and I've got to the point where I'm better at going back and revising. And a lot of times nowadays I'll write I'll write 10 verses to a song, and then the 3 that I like the most make it into the actual song. Where when I was younger, it would be like, it's done. And
do all 10, man.
Yeah, like, all right, that too.
Cassette tape doesn't cost much.
Yeah, they make those like 90-minute jobs.
That can be 2 songs on there, Let's just open it up. But in terms of like, heartbreak and dealing with, fragile people and dealing with the sort of, like, I noticed there's a few songs about, what seemed to me to be, relationships with people that are, maybe nuts.
Yeah.
Stuff we all deal with.
Sure.
But do you remember, what was the first song you wrote about?
Well,
was it an experiment, or were you trying? Just, you have an urgency to certainly who you were when you were younger, and I still saw it a bit on stage the other night. There's a bit of a rage there. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think the very, very early songs, surprisingly it's not that different from the way it is now, which is you have these little observations that you pick up throughout your daily life.
Yeah.
Whether it's a conversation with someone, or maybe something you see on TV or read in the paper or whatever, just these little sort of things that you pick up and notice, and then for me, they kind of collect in the back of my mind and sort of my subconscious, and then, you know, I think that the miracle or whatever of creativity is the way that those things all blend together and then come out in these songs that I still can't like sit down and write a song. You know, if you were to like write me a song in half hour or something, I could probably make a song, but it would be not good, you know?
Right.
And so much of it is waiting for that special kind of inspiration that comes.
So just couplets sometimes even.
Yeah.
You got a notebook with you and you just chase them down as they hit you.
Yeah. And it's like or just some image that like sticks in my mind. You know, I always feel like a lot of times I'll sing a song to myself, or I'll have an idea for a song, and then I won't get to the tape recorder, I won't get to the guitar, and then by the next day it's gone. You know,
one
of those
that's
like
the worst.
One of those I couldn't find a pen.
Damn it.
You know.
Yeah.
But I've kind of come to terms with that in the sense of like I feel like, well, maybe those are the ones that weren't meant to be, because I find that the ones that stick with me that I actually can't shake, and those ideas I can't shake, are the ones that make for better songs.
Right. So you can actually build out from an image, like you know, if you have a moment where you're like, holy shit, like a little piece of fragment of poetry.
Yeah, or just something I saw. Like when I wrote a song one time after I had gone to the pharmacy / liquor store, which I love how they're the same thing.
Yeah.
And you know, I was like going like with my girlfriend at the time or whatever, and like going in to like get our vodka or whatever.
Yeah.
And there was those the drive-through lines where people get their medicine out of the window, and I looked over into the window and I was like, that's so weird. There's an old man. Look how tiny that old man is.
Yeah.
And he just looks so strange to me. Like he must be, I don't know. He looked like a little old man.
Yeah.
And then we came back out and I saw him again. I'm like, that's a little kid.
Oh yeah.
That's like a little kid with like
a disease.
Cancer. Yeah. Like that's like a different thing than when I first, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like that was a thing where I just couldn't shake that experience, and that I didn't go home and directly like write about it, but that was one of those things that stayed in there, and then eventually like
what did it become?
It's called Danny Callahan. It's on one of my records, but
I listened to that song.
Yeah, I mean it's just kind of in one of the verses of it, but as an example of something that just sort of like you see for a split second, but then it.
Well, it's interesting because like watching you in Prine, and and thinking about like even towns that there are dudes that do thinky stuff, and then there are dudes that tell stories. And like a folk guy is going to do a little of both. But like I noticed that I think you lean towards the thinky.
Could be, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like even on the new record, the song about the kid, that growing up song, that sort of sweet song.
Sure.
That seemed like almost like an exercise in that type of writing for you.
Yeah, that's definitely more of
what's that song called?
You Are Your Mother's Child.
Yeah.
That was an anomaly. I mean, that was one I wrote originally for a movie that was about, kind of a father and his step relationship with his kids. So I was trying to write a song from the perspective of this father that's essentially saying, singing about his son, and obviously in a loving way, but sort of saying the reason you're so good and the reason is that you are your mother's child.
Right.
Like,
not me, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like the little twist at the end where it's like,
you
see that this is a guy that maybe hasn't been the best father, but he still has a lot of love, for his kid.
So that was actually an assignment almost. It was a project.
Yeah. I would say that one.
You like that song?
I mean, that was one that I had, I wasn't sure if I was going to put it on the record because it's definitely more on the sentimental tip, and it's a bit of an outlier.
Yeah.
But I do like it. I mean, I think at the end of the day, I was like, I think it's good for what it is. I don't know.
Sure.
It's
man.
It's
I mean, if you churn out as many songs as you do, just sort of innately, how do you know which ones do you love and why? Like if you look back,
and I mean, I don't spend a lot. I mean,
sometimes you play them.
I do play them. I mean, if I was to pick like Okay, one of my favorite songs that I've written is this song called Cape Canaveral.
Yeah, I like that song, yeah.
Yeah, that's one that I don't know, I mean, I'm kind of picking at random, but that's one that I feel very good about the words and the way it came together, yeah.
And the sort of elements in the chorus and, the span of the lyrics.
Yeah, I like it. It's, it's impressionistic for sure, and it's sort of, it's meant to kind of, I don't know, fly by in a way that's not completely like linear, but I like that.
So like you seem to wrestle with there seems to be points of contention with you, not just politically, but with religion and with the idea of religion that it seems like a lot of the songs all throughout your career are sort of trying to find that space, if that space exists. There's a lot of equations that you set up poetically that end in the present. Like, we got this, but the now is where we're at.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. I went to, grew up Catholic school and all that.
Did you grow up believing it?
I mean, again, my parents were always pretty cool, so I remember the first time I could really make an argument beyond, like, I want to sleep in. Yeah. On Sunday or whatever. Yeah. Then my mom was pretty cool to let me. I mean, I remember I don't know how you grew up, but in Catholicism,
very, very, very easygoing Jew. Is how I was brought up.
Well, Catholicism, there's like this thing called confirmation, which when you're like 12 or whatever. I guess it's like bar mitzvah type vibe. I get it. Yeah. And so I remember I think you're in 6th grade or 7th grade or something. You're pretty young still, But it's the idea of the sacrament or whatever is that you are now an adult in the eyes of the faith, and you're taking it on as your own. And I remember like saying to my mom, like, I don't believe in this. I don't want to do this. And she was like, well, you're doing it for your grandmother. Yeah. So you'll get your clothes on.
Do it for grandma. Yeah.
So it wasn't, and that was it. Yeah. So.
And that was the end of it? Yeah. But where do you stand now? Because like I said, there is an urgency towards the idea of sort of, I don't know if it's figuring it out, but wherever your emotions are going within a lot of your songs, there seems to be some need for something beyond the song. Where do you land with that?
As far as like spirituality, like
sure, and you talk about fate. There's a song that you did the other night that taught you. I think you introduced it. Yeah, questioning the idea of fate.
I think it's still something I think about. I think that's just a big part of the human condition. I mean, I think that organized religion has reaped all manners of evil upon this world, and I wish, in a lot of ways, that it wouldn't exist. I mean, I think
it's also given a lot of people a place to go on Sunday,
and that's true. No, that's true. And it's whatever works for everybody. I'm not.
No, I mean, I get your drift. Yeah. But, where did you ever, because I noticed, there was something also I noticed that when I was thinking about even the career of Dylan and in your 2 solo records, that's where I sort of realized that, the songwriter is going to be the songwriter first and foremost. And then you just got to figure out, how mature you want that music to be behind you. In the sense that, how is it going to fit where I'm at in my life now? Sure. Even your old songs. You're choosing this band, they're a solid ass band, and then you choose songs that you're going to play just, on the guitar. Yep. And, but they're Dylan would sort of publicly, and I think, who else? Well, not Townes, he didn't last long enough, but, Leonard Cohen has sort of evolved into a bit of a Buddha of sorts. Yeah. And, there is something as you get older that, you start to, either get comfortable with or not. Where have you landed with that stuff on a day-to-day basis and keeping your shit together? Or you don't think about it?
I try not to think about it too much. I mean, I guess I'm like, a humanist. I think that you get what you give kind of thing. And the more love and positivity that you can promote just in your own life amongst your own friends and family and if you can, strangers, the more that you can give that positive energy, I think it is returned, I don't know, that's kind of maybe a hallmark way to look at it, but
well, I mean, do you still feel like, do you struggle with depression or anything?
Yeah, I mean, but doesn't everybody?
To a degree.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, because I just know that, like, who was I talking to? Maybe it was Maynard from Tool or something. Or he said that if you don't believe in magic a little bit, it's hard to be creative.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I still think the wonder and the mystery of things is one thing that keeps me going. Like the idea of not, if someone was like, "What are you? Are you an atheist or agnostic or what?" I wouldn't really want any of those labels, but I guess I would say I'm agnostic, if in the sense of I do think there's things beyond the human scope that we just don't know.
Yeah,
and that,
thank God.
Yeah,
whoever.
Yeah, and I don't know about an eternal soul or life after death or all that shit, but like I do think we are part of an energy, a greater energy beyond ourselves. Yeah, and that there is a way to live. There is a better way to live than other ways, I'm not I'm not.
Have you made some mistakes?
Sure. Of course. Of course, yeah. But, try to learn from them and try to...
Well, that's where the songs come from. They got to come from that after a while.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, totally.
So when you think back on, the guys that, that you like to listen to, like Towns, let's start with him. What was it that impressed you about him outside of like this profound heavy-heartedness that's almost hard to listen to?
Yeah, I mean, it is some of the saddest music ever made. But I guess just the way it makes me feel in my heart.
Which song gets you?
Well, I would say there's so many, but that song Miss Carousel, Fairly Well, Miss Carousel. It's on the first one. That's one of my favorite bangers. But I mean, even a song as famous as it is, but Poncho and Lefty, you listen to that song and it's I mean, it's like there's those songs that come from some other world, like Mr. Tambourine Man or something. There's these songs that like where it's just like this. Yeah, it's like there's, I don't know. I mean, it's easy to be like it's some divine channeling of whatever, and I don't know that that's true, but I do know that some people are able to touch these things, these jewels, these like.
Yeah, well, they come just like you said. They come, watching TV.
Yeah.
Like, I think that, like, like a lyric, unlike anything else, is just sort of like you can really start with a line and not even know why.
Yeah, totally. Well, Towns, claims he, like, dreamt that song, and he didn't know he said he didn't know what it's about, but it's like, yeah.
Why not? Why not tap that shit?
Yeah, totally. I mean.
Have you ever written stuff from Dream?
I did have one song. I mean, I've dreamt music, but as far as like one that actually was like I could remember and make into a song, is a song of mine called Lime Tree. And in my song, or in my dream, a friend of mine who is not a singer at all, has never sang, I never heard him sing, and he was in my dream and he was singing this song, and he had the most beautiful high, like, angelic voice. Yeah. And he sang like the whole like verse and chorus like in my dream. Yeah. And I woke up and I was on the bus. I was in the tour bus, and I like, popped up in my bunk and was like, and I got out and I got my guitar. And I sat in the back lounge and like wrote it pretty much start to finish, like
with the lyrics that he sang. Get out.
Yeah. That was the closest I've gotten to something like that.
Did you tell him about it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, what did he say?
He was stoked.
Was this a childhood friend or not a music guy?
It is a music guy. It's this guy named Nick White who he plays in bands, but he's just like a piano player and stuff. So I had never heard him sing.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. And what about like when you listen to Dylan, like which song kills you? Like, because I know like a couple of Dylan songs that kill me. Like Visions of Joanna is like, what the fuck? Yeah. Like and It's All Right, Ma. Those two songs, like I'm like, all the answers are in those two.
Totally. There's, It's All Right, Ma is the one I think. You ever see that Ed Bradley interview he did, like 60 Minutes, like a Dylan interview he did kind of late. Like this is like in sort of recent history. I mean, I guess maybe 10 years ago or something.
He's hard to talk to.
But then he starts.
I did see that actually.
But it's an incredible interview. But he starts quoting that song, and he's like, you try to do that. Yeah. He's like, It's like, that's magic. That's not Siegfried and Roy magic. That's real magic, you know.
That's what Dylan said?
Yeah, it's like something like only something he could say, but he was like, you try to do that. Yeah.
Well, I think he's sort of like, I think he eventually became kind of rightfully, defending, like, I don't know where this comes from.
Yeah.
But I'm the guy that's delivering it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he also says in that interview about how he's like, I can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
He's like, I can do other things, but I can't do that anymore.
He got more sparse.
Yeah.
As he got older,
Yeah.
Like some of that later stuff was pretty good.
I mean, I still think Time Out of Mind's like one of his best albums. It's
great record.
Yeah,
the production on thing is trippy, man. You feel like you're in the like some sort of tunnel.
Yeah.
That that the light's dimming at the end of. Like that was the first time you realize, like, no, Dylan knows he's running out of time, right?
Yeah. There's a beautiful like swampy heaviness to that record that's in like all the, because I think that's a Lenoir one.
Yeah.
So there's all like those reverbs and stuff just really take you into a different world, What
music did you grow up with primarily? Like, what was your old man into outside of practicing his cover tune?
I mean, they were like, Fleetwood Mac, Steely Dan, Joni Mitchell, Jackson Brown, some, to a certain degree, like, definitely Neil, to a certain degree, Dylan and stuff, and like,
Neil?
Elvis Costello, definitely Neil, for sure. Oh, and Paul Simon.
Paul Simon's like those... Paul Simon solo records, even that first one.
It's like one of my favorites. He's got the hood on. The
greatest record, man.
Dude, I know.
That song Duncan kills me.
Yeah, that whole album is like beautiful.
It's crazy. My parents used to play that on the 8-track when we were kids.
Yeah.
So like it was plowed into my head.
Yeah.
But A Peace Like a River.
Oh yeah.
What the fuck?
Oh, long past the midnight curfew, we sat starry-eyed.
Yeah. Yeah, so sweet. Yeah. Like something about that song Duncan, about that guy getting laid.
Yeah, getting into the tent with like the hippie girl.
Yeah, like I was like literally in the back of a station wagon as a kid, going like, I know what's happening.
Yeah,
it was like a turn on.
Yeah,
there's
damn. A lot of great ones.
But you seem to have some like other influences that kind of ring throughout the music all the way, like a little rap, a little punk somewhere.
Absolutely, the stuff, like I was saying, from that record store and this place in town that was like this little like hole in the wall punk rock club.
Right.
We saw a lot of, I guess, what you'd call punk or hardcore or indie rock, whatever the hell they called it at that time. But there was definitely a lot of that, and like deep love for like Replacements and that kind of stuff. So
sure, man.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like in listening that like I noticed any real attempt at a pop hook per se, but it didn't seem to concern you that much early on.
No, I wrote for a long time. None of my songs had any words that repeated, so every chorus would be different words,
and that was intentional.
Kind of, or maybe one line would repeat, but for the most part, I was trying to use every last bit of real estate for more words,
Yeah,
and so I didn't. It was a long time before I sort of realized there's something nice about going back to a refrain.
Right. Yeah.
There's something nice about repeating some words.
Sure. Gives people a chance to sing along.
Yeah.
Give the people a chance to sing along.
Yeah.
And you're a folk musician.
Exactly. And they can feel, really good to get back to that spot, But I also get bored with like, obviously on top 40 radio and stuff where there'll be this line, two lines of a verse, and then you're back to the chorus, and then now we're back to like the fifth chorus, and it's the same words and
repetition,
and
hypnosis.
Now it's like they didn't even sing it 5 times. They sang it once, and then they put it all in there, cut and paste, and it just sucks, And
it does suck,
and it's hard to like hard to relate to that stuff. And I think it is. I mean, there is like a human psychological condition about familiarity is equated to enjoyment, like in the human mind. If you repeat things,
it's comforting.
Yeah.
And
so that's
there it is again.
And that's the way. I mean, that's the way all commercial radio works. Is they play. They play the same, whatever it is, 16 songs, however many times a day.
I don't even know what it is anymore.
And so it could matter less what the song sounds like, because for people that listen to like terrestrial radio, they're going to hear this same cut that many times to the point where it's just like I must like this.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I know it.
Yeah, they keep playing it.
Yeah, and it's like a nice, comfortable shoe.
And then people must like it.
Yeah.
I must not be alone.
Yeah.
They keep playing it.
Totally.
It's weird. I've had some experiences listening to classic rock radio in recent times. I got into vinyl again, where I'm completely surprised at how many of some artists' songs I know, and just how fucking much better they are than I ever thought.
Yeah.
Like, do you ever have that moment with Creedence where you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, they have amazing...
And that guy meant it, man. He sang his balls off.
Yeah.
And, like, some of that stuff is, like, raw, dude.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Who do you like to hear when it pops up on the radio?
You know,
Are you a Petty guy?
Oh, I love Petty.
Right?
Oh, it's love.
Did you ever play with him?
Love Petty. I haven't. I know Ben Ma a little
Sweet
bit.
guy. I had him in here.
Yeah, and I've been able to see some great Petty shows, but no, I don't. I haven't never met Tom himself. So,
But you did play with Bruce.
I play with Bruce, who's an amazing, gracious, awesome person,
And he's an interesting guy, like, I would imagine for someone like you who was sort of like, kind of like had to come around full circle to sort of see himself as a folk musician. Like, because I think he likes that. Like,
Yeah.
like as he got older and he did.
I mean, he had the new Dylan thing thrown on him, you know.
Right, but he was coming from such a tradition of like East Coast R&B and
totally.
and
That's soul. That for Greetings from Asbury Park, which I love, is like it's like a soul record.
It's almost like a Van Morrison record.
Yeah,
it sounds like a fucking Van Morrison record.
Yeah, it's that you know that song For You. There's a song called For You.
Yeah.
For you, I came for you. But you did not need my urgency. That song's that's a banger.
You did not need my urgency.
Yeah.
Oh, those are like, you got a lot of lines like that. With these like just these little lines. You're like, oh, jeez, that must have hurt that guy.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun when I like writers that don't always kind of telegraph their punches. You know, they'll be like they kind of got you. And then like. This one comes like
subtle.
Yeah. And then that one comes out of the blue and just like hits.
Right, and sometimes it's not like it's just the precision of it.
Yeah.
It may not be an elaborate word, but the emotion is.
Yeah,
like,
it's like boxing, man.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Turning the phrase.
Yeah.
That's like boxing.
Yeah.
Was a lot of your compulsive, it seems, songwriting when you were younger to sort of, kind of manage anger, manage darkness, manage frustration?
I guess so. I mean, I always felt and still feel that, to me, a lot of my day to day, I feel like I have a pretty scatterbrained, Like I'm not like an airhead, but I definitely, my mind wanders a lot and I'm prone to daydreams and maybe not paying attention all the time.
Yeah.
And so writing is a form for me to kind of get to some clarity, and if I can put it down and it makes sense to me, it doesn't have to make sense to anyone else, but if it makes sense to me, it makes me feel a little more, attached to this reality.
Sure.
Then
hands on.
Yeah. Then it's a force of good for myself,
You're
so
not drifting off.
Yeah.
In the head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I know that one. Where you're like, I haven't talked to anybody in a day or two. And I'm okay. That's the scary part.
Yeah.
I'm okay not talking.
Yeah.
But is your brother's in the music racket too?
No, my brothers are not in. They don't play. Yeah, they're not in the music business. My one brother, Justin, helped start the label very, very early on.
Uh-huh.
But after that, he went on to like law school and yeah, he lives in DC and does like
is he a good guy or a bad
guy? No, he works for a like environmental consulting law thing, which sounds like a good thing, but I think sometimes they
trying to bend the rules.
Saying there's some of that.
Yeah,
I mean, he's a very good person, but I think his job and then the nature of the beast out there is pretty crazy.
And what's the other brother do?
And the other brother is a teacher.
All right.
Yeah.
And your folks still around?
Yep. They have now moved to the East Coast to be closer to the grandkids.
Yeah.
And actually, one of the things I feel best, or one of the, I guess, an accomplishment I suppose I feel good about is I was able to, my dad because I always had stuff going on, like taxes and record contracts and stuff I didn't understand when I was young. And he would just do all that stuff for me because he didn't want me to end up, in jail for like tax evasion. So he would help me and did that for years and years while he worked at Mutual of Omaha.
Yeah.
And then one day I got to the point where my other like manager was like, okay, now you need to get a business manager. It's just, you have to. This is stupid.
I know, I just hit that myself.
Yeah. It's like,
it's hard.
It's stupid to not have one. And I just asked my dad to do it. I was like, Dad, will you quit your job and I'll pay you a salary and you can do all this stuff that you're already doing for me, but you won't have to go up into the Indian in the Sky building anymore and like, be up there in that weird cubicle. Like,
and he took the gig?
He did it. So
your dad's on the payroll.
Yeah.
That's good, man.
And it's awesome, because it's, you don't
have to worry about it.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's your dad.
Totally.
And you get along with him.
And he's like the most, pragmatist, like Midwestern, like solid dude. So like, I'm always like, why shouldn't we be able to like get around some of this like tax stuff? He's like, well,
got to pay the government.
Yeah.
You got to do your part. It's your civic duty. Well, it's interesting when you start making money, where your politics end up. That's where people change,
Yeah.
That's where idealism dies at the tax man.
That's true. I can remember getting my first like advance for like a publishing deal when I was probably like 19 or something, and I don't know what it was. It was like $50,000 or something, and I thought I was the richest person that had like ever lived. I was like, oh,
yeah. Well, you get about 20 of that.
Yeah, exactly. And then I remember that being explained to me, like, well, actually, I was
what?
Like, oh, yeah. And it'd be one thing if it was like, oh, we all had beautiful public schools and like, swimming pools and whatever for like everyone to use, and like roads that worked and public transportation. But that's
not the case. Hard to track that money.
I know
that you didn't get.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's when it does become political pretty fast because you're like, what the hell? Like what? That's let's do something with all that besides like build bombs to like whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but I think that's interesting. It's not whatever. It's interesting to me that other band that you have, your rock band, what's that called again?
Desaparecidos.
Yeah.
We've only made one record, and it was back in like 2001 or 2, but we're about to make a new one.
What's going to happen?
It's going to happen next year. So.
Now, what do you see that project as? What can you do with them that you can't do on your own?
Well, it's a band. It's a real band in the sense of it's the same 5 guys.
Yeah.
And everyone has their role, and we write those songs we write all together, like in the band room. The other guitar player is, kind of more of a riff-based guitar player, so he comes up with these cool rock riffs, and then we all start playing loud, and I start screaming nonsense, and then eventually, like, I write words to match the melody. But so yeah, it's I guess it's more of being together and all of our ideas, combining to make that band what it is. But it is very all the songs are very topical, and I wouldn't say they're all political, but they're all topical. Well,
the weird thing is about folk music and the sort of populist responsibility of what was the certainly the Woody Guthrie side of the folk movement.
Sure.
It kind of leans on you guys a little bit. Like at some point you're going to hit that juncture where you're like, I better say something for the people, to the people.
Yeah.
Like there's a social responsibility to folk in a way.
Yeah. Well, back in 2004 or 5, I had this song called "When the President Talks to God," and it wasn't on a record or anything. And I wrote it after doing we did because you were part of the whole Air America thing and all that, right?
Yeah, I was there.
So anyway, there was that Vote for Change tour, which is when I was on tour with Springsteen and R.E.M. and John Fogerty, and we did all these shows, and we were trying to get Kerry and that other guy elected, and we, it worked really hard. Kind of, my heart was in it. I was young, naive, and wanted it to work out, and it didn't. And I was, of course, devastated. And I remember I had just finished my record, and I was going to Europe to do a press thing. You got to go these straight press tours.
Yeah.
which is like my least favorite part of it, go and just get interviewed in all these different countries. And that was at the height of just like the Europeans definitely hating Bush and Iraq War and everything, rightfully so. And he had just got reelected. And I was just like, man, I'm going to go and this is all they're going to want to talk about. Yeah. And I was very bummed out. But Bruce, being as sweet as he is, like called my cell phone. I'm like at the airport.
Springsteen?
Yeah, to get on the plane. And he's just like, now, Conor, you go over there and you tell him there's half of us that don't believe in this, and there's a real America over here, and we're going to fight really hard. You know, gave me this, like, pep talk, like, in the airport, which is so cool. And I was like, all right, Bruce, I'm going to do it. So I cruised over there, and I, like, basically on the plane, and shortly after I'd landed, I wrote that song really quick, and it's a terrible song. It's not a good song. It's just kind of like a talking blues, like, you know, fuck George W., basically. Right. But it felt like as you say, like an obligation. Like I felt like I had to do something to, you know, it was more of a commercial for like the idea that there was a whole nother half of Americans that felt the opposite, you know, and trying to like.
But you got orders from the boss.
Exactly.
The boss called you before you made the trip.
Exactly. So.
Do you still have that relationship with him?
I mean, whenever I see him or run into him, he's always gracious and awesome. Like he played Omaha once and I was there and he like got me up on stage and stuff. So yeah, but I mean, we're not like chatting on the phone all the time. Right.
Well, it's interesting because Dylan was very good at balancing all that shit and coding it in, you know, sort of broader existential terms. You know, like he was really kind of amazing at being vague and concise at the same time. You know, and I think you nail that too sometimes. Like, you know, it could be about anything. You're going to take that lyric and, you know, it's going to go in, like you said before, it's going to provoke whatever it's going to provoke in you.
Yeah. And I think the truth of it is that the political and the personal will always be intertwined.
Yeah.
And so if you can tell, you know, a human story and maybe the subtext is a political issue. Yeah. But you can figure out a way to communicate that to a listener without, you know, being so on the nose, which I've been, you know, not so successful at on some of my songs, but that's just part of learning about that stuff.
But you write so many, so you're gonna, you know, and you're growing up. You're growing up in public. You're growing up with your music. I mean, you know, not everybody starts at fucking 15 and has to somehow wrangle that shit. Yeah. I mean, you're a grown ass man now.
I know, baby. 34.
Yeah, and you got married.
Yep.
What was that bullshit you had to deal with that crazy girl?
Yeah, it was a very surreal.
How did that unfold?
Well, somebody wrote a very horrible lie about me anonymously on a comment section. Yeah. And then the sort of
accused you of rape.
Yes.
Some girl. You don't know her.
No.
Yeah.
And the blogosphere
went crazy
and did their thing. And it was you know, it was very painful. It was like the world was like upside down for a little bit, and I just kind of...
Did you detach from it? What were you instructed to do?
Well, eventually we filed like a libel lawsuit. Yeah. And then eventually she recanted and said that it was all a lie and it was a hoax, and you know, it's
amazing how quickly that...
Yeah, I mean, it taught me a lot about I mean, I've always sort of hated the kind of depravity of our current internet culture.
The feeding frenzy?
Yeah.
The predatory feeding frenzy?
Yeah, and the way that people, you know, it's just, there's zero journalistic standards to anything.
None.
So it's basically a game of telephone. Yeah. That goes on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But like...
No one's credited.
Yeah.
And no facts are checked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, so it was really hard. And at this point, I'm just kind of trying to put it in the rearview mirror. I mean, there's still like, you know, echoes in my mind for sure.
Sure.
But I also want to put it in perspective because, you know, I think about all the many African American men who are in prisons right now for crimes they didn't commit, you know, and for actual victims of sexual assault who that has done the greatest disservice to. Right. You know, and what, you know, they say 1 out of 4 women will experience sexual assault in their lifetime, and like that's staggering and fucking horrible.
So does something about those feelings, you know, that you know, falsely accused by just I mean, has that played into any songs?
You know, I really haven't written any songs. Like, I think I'm still processing it. You know, I think
Do
it's
you write
still,
from that place, though? Have you written about, like, outside of poetic personal experiences, but, you know, like real struggle? Or are you going to, how long have you been married?
It'll be 4 years in December.
Has that informed your love songs?
Yeah, I mean, I think your whole,
Sure.
life experience is going to play subconsciously into that creative process. I mean, definitely being married has, I think, made me a more patient, like, happier person, and like less rushing around,
Sure.
and like feeling like manic about. You know, I was just a workaholic for years and years and years, you know?
Yeah.
And I didn't think breathed music all the time.
Yeah.
And now I've gotten to the point where I realize, you know, there's other as important things
You gonna have a
in
baby?
the world. We got a puppy.
You're going to have a baby. You're going to have one.
I don't know.
You got to. I didn't have one.
I don't know, man. I mean, it's talking about all that and like technology in the future. It's not. It scares me. You know, I don't like to.
What about love, though, Connor? You know, sometimes you got to bring it in.
I know they say that. I'm like, well, you got to have kids and raise them right and all that. But I don't know. I just see these like. They're all kind of half robots now, like these little like toddlers with their
you don't have to do it.
iPads.
Go off the grid.
I know.
Go buy yourself a house in the hills, man.
Go to the mountains.
Make it sparse.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what was that song that I listened to about the freedom and love? What is that on the new record?
Yep.
That's a good one.
Yep. Yeah, freedom's the opposite of love because you can never keep it through your paranoia.
Yeah.
Which I think is true. If you love someone, you're always worried about them and everything. So.
That's interesting. And with freedom, you're just sort of like, what does it really mean, right?
Foot loose and fancy free.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, but in a bigger sense, you know, what is the cost of freedom? You know, what is the price of it, and what is it really?
Yeah.
You know, I don't. It's some big shit.
Yeah, and it's definitely like alluring. Like the idea of, you know, and I feel like I lived that way for a long time, where I was just, you know, not that I didn't have obligations, but I could kind of do what I wanted whenever I wanted, and I didn't stay in a town for more than like a few weeks at a time, like literally for years.
Yeah.
And I guess I don't care to like really do that anymore.
Well, yeah. The loneliness of that.
Yeah.
Of not, you know, being anchored or making those kind of commitments to other person, and having that trust and building that stuff. I mean, yeah, it depletes the meaning of things.
Yeah,
it's like there was that song that, you know, the road. What is it? The road will cure. What is it? The road.
Nothing the road cannot heal.
Yeah, but you know, that's weird.
And that might not be true. That might not be a true statement.
Well, no, but healing is an interesting thing because that doesn't mean that you ain't gonna be scarred.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, I think it holds.
Totally. Well, I love that Towns line where he says, "There's nothing prettier than looking back at a town you left behind."
Yeah.
And that's what I've said to myself all the time.
Well, let's end it there, man. It's good talking to you.
Thank you.
We're gonna play a song, right?
I'd be happy to. He's my friend, he's no friend to me. Just ask him why, he'll tell you casually. Washed up, bitter, broken, busted, backstabbed everyone he trusted. Says he sees what no one else can see. But if I had half his guts, I'd want it to chase that fatalistic comet and die young in the dark. That's poetry. But it was not to be. No, it was not for me. He's always sad, I've never seen him cry. When he comes to, sure, he'll apologize. Find his car, assess the damage. Still drunk, but he likes a challenge. Holds on to his mind just like a kite. But a good strong wind will keep you honest, fill you with some common knowledge. Things when we were young we never tried. I figured we had time with such a long life. Money clips, alligator shoes. Just one more dance, he's in that champagne room, where she moves like a chocolate fountain, pouring, spilling all around him. Makes him wonder what else she can do. But how bittersweet is love's illusion, feelings that cannot be proven. Just trust me, you'll see my aim is true. I've done this all for you. I suffered long for you. So many times he tried to play it straight. He just worked in till his body ached. But a brand new life will lose its luster. Troubles tend to find each other. Call it luck, or you can call it fate. But either way, it's how it happens, not the life that you imagine. So just go out with a bang like Hemingway. Some will say you're brave, some will say you ain't.
Yeah. Awesome, man.
Cool.
Sounded great.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing it.
My pleasure.
That was nice. Guy's got a knack. Got a knack for that songwriting. Conor Oberst does. Don't forget to check out Giuseppe Makes a Movie, a new documentary by director Adam Rifkin, available now on iTunes, Amazon, Vudu, and Video on Demand. It's a stranger-than-fiction look at a true outsider artist inhabiting a world few of us even know exists. Bobcat Goldthwait calls it, quote, American movie meets Charles Bukowski in a trailer park, end quote. And it's currently rated 100% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Giuseppe Makes a Movie is available now on VOD and in May on Blu-ray and limited edition VHS. You can also go to WTF Pod and do all your WTF Pod needs. Get some posters, get on the mailing list, check my tour schedule at the calendar, check who's been on the show, pick up the app, perhaps. I think we go straight into the amp with the Buddha, the 335, straight in.